Mike Johnson has zero control over the House of Representatives. Let's just call it like it is. There is a reason he is constantly sending everyone home, cancelling votes, and shutting down entire days of business. It's not just because he's fundamentally powerless, though he is, or the fact that he's handed his balls over to Donald Trump to be kept in a little purse in the Oval Office. It's also because his historically tiny majority is shrinking by the second, and he can thank Nancy Mace, Paulina Luna, and most loudly, Lauren Boebert for that. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, a new report just dropped in the New York Times about fresh resignations that should have Mike Johnson absolutely terrified. If he can't manage the room now, his next step is a total descent into irrelevance. That's why I want to start with just how useless the House has become lately. While the country has real problems, members of Congress are currently on another vacation. Why? Because Mike Johnson isn't a leader, he's a placeholder. We are going to dive into the chaos involving Mace, Luna, and of course, Lauren Boebert in just a second. Punchbowl News reports it's all falling apart for House GOP this week. The wheels are coming off the House Republican conference in a week that was supposed to set the tone for a furious period of election year legislating. Speaker Mike Johnson's House GOP majority is once again the epitome of discord and dysfunction. It's not really clear how House Republicans will get through the next few days or earlier this week, and they didn't. Johnson's leadership team may lose yet another big rule vote, and they did. There's constant grumbling inside House Republican leadership circles as people snipe at one another, which we'll get to in a minute. Senate Republicans are furious with their House GOP counterparts. The White House seems fed up with a chaotic House GOP conference too. Plus, the stakes couldn't be higher politically and policy-wise. After a Rules Committee hearing that stretched from Monday to Tuesday, House GOP leadership plans to go to the floor with a blueprint for debating several key bills. These include FISA Section 702 Renewal, a farm bill legislation allowing the year-round sale of E15 ethanol fuel, and a budget resolution to fund ICE and Border Patrol. None of these they were able to get done, but that GOP drafted rule looks destined to fail. Another potentially devastating misstep for Johnson and his top lieutenants. And then what? Will Johnson keep the House over the weekend? He didn't. Will Johnson cancel the upcoming weeks-long May recess? No. Will Johnson have to punt to the Senate to ensure that the nation's most critical foreign surveillance program doesn't expire? House Republicans want to portray themselves as the grown-ups, as we're about to get to in a second in Washington, ahead of what's expected to be a difficult midterm election. But at this point, they look like amateurs and their majority is in deep trouble. The legislative morass, despite months of internal discussions, House Republicans can't agree among themselves about how to move forward on extending FISA. Even more importantly, the White House sent Capitol Hill a memo Tuesday night basically ordering House Republicans to move forward with the Department of Homeland Security funding 3 minutes bill that already passed by the Senate and is just not getting traction. Mike Johnson is drowning in the chaos surrounding him, and he's completely incapable of grabbing the wheel. The Republicans are in a state of open revolt. I want to break down exactly what's going on with Nancy Mace, Paulina Luna, and Lauren Boebert. We need to look at the total hypocrisy of their resignation bombshells and the nonsense they are feeding the press. But more importantly, I want to point out what was alluded to in that last clip, what Mike Johnson actually thinks about his own conference in the House. It is absolute insanity. The man leading the party has zero respect for the people he's supposed to be leading, and they have even less for him. We are watching a party eat itself alive, and I'm going to show you exactly how deep the rot goes.
They have full-on Trump derangement syndrome, okay? And it informs how they see the world and how they react, and how irresponsible they are now is on full display for the whole country. I hope voters remember this in the fall. You got to keep the grown-ups in charge, and that's the Republicans.
Let's be honest, these people are not the adults in the room. They behave like entitled children. And I've said it before, but it bears repeating. No one despises their own supporters more than the Republican Party. Mike Johnson hates Republican voters. Donald Trump hates Republican voters. How do we know? Because they have allowed the most bottom of the barrel behavior. And behavior isn't even the right word. We're talking about borderline criminal activity to run rampant in Congress without a single ounce of accountability. That is what we are witnessing. Mike Johnson doesn't get anything done. He refuses to move forward with the legislative priorities of the people who, for some reason I'll never understand, elected Donald Trump. So even the hardcore MAGA base is being completely ignored. And average Americans? We are definitely not being served because this Congress has only ever passed bills that benefit billionaires while hurting everyone else. It is all falling apart. It's a total humiliation for Mike Johnson, and it's the perfect case study for why Republicans should never be allowed to govern. But it's about to get even worse. Just as the dysfunction is hitting its peak, Nancy Mace, Paulina Luna, and Lauren Boebert decided to do a glossy spread in the New York Times about why they want to blow the whole thing up even more. These GOP women want Congress members to pay a price for abuse. Will it work? 3 Republican women who had a hand in forcing the resignations of lawmakers accused of sexual misconduct said they are out to name and shame more offenders. It is not clear how far they'll go. When former Representative Tony Gonzalez, Republican of Texas, admitted in March to a long-rumored affair with a staff member who later took her own life, a pair of Republican women immediately called for him to be formally censured, and a third became the first in the GOP to demand that he resign. The men at the helm of the party, Donald Trump, and top congressional leaders were still standing by Mr. Gonzalez, whose vote they needed to maintain their narrow majority in the House, of course. But among the small majority of GOP lawmakers in the House who are women, an outspoken trio on the hard right, Representatives Paulina Luna, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert, went on the warpath and ultimately helped Forrest Gonzalez to resign in May under the threat of expulsion. It was part of an unlikely campaign by the 3 MAGA women to call out what they say is a culture of rampant sexual harassment and misconduct on Capitol Hill and to dismantle the unwritten rules of political expediency in tribal loyalty that for decades have helped to keep such behavior under wraps. Ms. May said she was in discussions with Speaker Mike Johnson about kicking Corey Mills off of his committees until he is expelled or resigns or until the ethics panel finishes its investigation. Another resignation bombshell that both Boebert and Mace and Luna are all moving forward with trying to get Corey Mills out of Congress. A spokesperson for Mr. Mike Johnson said the Speaker was waiting for the Ethics Committee to finish its work before taking any punitive action. The women said they were happy to be the instigators on an issue that hits close to home for them, but they are also questioned why they had to be the first ones to call for predators to leave their positions of power. The 3 lawmakers, all of whom notably say they do not believe the allegations of sexual abuse, not just allegations, but actual charges and convictions and misconduct against Mr. Trump, added that they were bent on naming and shaming predators in Congress and both parties. And they say they don't believe anything about Donald Trump. They want to do it in Congress. Hypocrisy, huh? It is hard to imagine, though, any Democratic aide feeling comfortable approaching Ms. Boebert, who has accused Democrats at various times of inciting violence, hating Christmas, and grooming children with any sensitive personal story. Yes, why would any Democratic aide who's facing harassment feel comfortable going to Lauren Boebert of all people? And in the same vein, Ms. May has publicly tormented Representative Sarah McBride, Democrat of Delaware and the first openly transgender member of Congress since Ms. McBride took office last year, waging a campaign to bar her from the women's restroom in the Capitol complex. Seems like sexual harassment to me. Now on the surface, this sounds like a noble effort by Boebert, Mace and Luna, claiming they want to root out the criminals, the abusers and the harassers in Congress. But let's be real. It is incredibly difficult to take them seriously when they are the same people who worship Donald Trump and deny the reality of his own misconduct. Donald Trump is a documented sex criminal. That is just a fact. He has a history of targeting women, and likely children, alongside his best buddy Jeffrey Epstein, whose files he is still helping to cover up. So, the idea that these women are the moral police of Capitol Hill is a joke. And as that New York Times article pointed out, do they really think any Democratic staffer is going to feel comfortable coming to them with a complaint? Of course not. It's obvious that most of what they're doing is just a massive PR stunt to attack Democrats. Now look, I'll give credit where it's due. Tony Gonzalez needs to go, and Nancy Mace is 100% right that Corey Mills should be removed from office immediately. And Mike Johnson sitting there saying, "Oh, we're waiting for the House ethics investigation. Give me a break." Being in Congress isn't a right, and being removed isn't a jail sentence. You don't need a jury conviction to be kicked out of a job for being a disgrace to the institution. But it's just so hypocritical. You wave the flags, you wear the red hat, you call this man your dear leader, and this is your big undertaking? If you were actually serious about rooting out harassers and abusers in our government, wouldn't you start at the very top? Wouldn't the President of the United States be your first target? But of course not, because the baseline for being in MAGA is total hypocrisy. And look at how this is affecting Mike Johnson. It is absolute chaos. He is physically unable to deal with the constant infighting and the sniping that the New York Times described. It is completely destroying his ability to pass legislation or get anything done. Which is why this direct attack from Nancy Mace doesn't just look bad, it's a death knell for his future as Speaker.
So I'm in Congress as the purse strings. Sure.
Congressman Paulina says he's not resigning. What do you say to him?
Well, I actually sent a text to the Speaker today. I'm waiting for him to respond, and if he doesn't respond, I'm going to go find him, hunt him down on the floor, because this is the kind of person that shouldn't be here in Congress, and the more that you learn, the worse it is. And you guys have done a good job digging into his behavior, so to speak, and if we're going to say we're against predators, we should be against Corey Mills.
I mean, what did you ask the Speaker?
Well, I told him that this needs to be taken care of. This guy has no place in Congress, especially if you're a woman, especially if you were a military vet. What he's done is shameful. And at some point, we have to take responsibility for ourselves. If we're going to hold the left accountable, we got to hold the right accountable too.
When do you plan to introduce that expulsion resolution?
We're talking about it now. This is my first day back since I buried my dad on Thursday. So it's been a long day and a long week. I do appreciate many of you in the press actually reached out last week and the week before, and I want to say thank you. It meant a lot to me.
Sorry for your loss, Congresswoman. Do you think that with the Corey Mills situation, part of the reason could be because of the margins, the tight margins that you have?
I don't think margins should matter. I mean, integrity matters here. Morality should matter here. The way that we behave should matter here. I mean, we should hold ourselves to a higher standard than the American people. I mean, this is an institution that the American people need to trust, and if this is the behavior that goes on up here, particularly towards women, then those individuals who are participating in that behavior need to go. And that starts with Corey Mills and Ruben Gallego and anybody else that is behaving in this manner.
The Speaker said that the ethics process should play out first.
Well, he's been saying that for a long time, and the evidence is overwhelming, and this needs to be taken care of.
Corey Mills says he's going to retaliate with an expulsion resolution.
Did he do that
against
last
you.
week?
Yes.
Did he file it last week?
Not that I saw, but he said that he was going to.
Yeah, I think he was floating one around. I thought he filed it. I'm not even sure. I was planning my father's funeral last week and dealing with vicious attacks by Corey Mills. It says something a lot about a man who goes on the attack against a woman viciously, nastily, spreading lies the week that she buries her father and I was planning his funeral. He's a disgusting and shameful individual, and he should be given the boot out of Congress immediately.
Congressman, have you had any conversations with Chairman Comer about
Nancy Mace is openly calling out Mike Johnson for his cowardice, calling him out for refusing to take any punitive action against Corey Mills. And look, she's right. But let's see this for what it actually is. It's leverage. She now has every incentive to hold her vote over Mike Johnson's head until she gets what she wants. The same goes for Paulina Luna, and the same goes for Lauren Boebert, though honestly, Lauren, I don't know how much you should be talking about public misconduct considering your own little theatre performance at Beetlejuice. Regardless, this is the state of Mike Johnson's Congress right now. It is a fragmented, dysfunctional mess, and we are going to be right here to cover every single second of the collapse. If you want to support this work and help us keep the pressure on these people, hit that subscribe button right now. Leave a like on the video to help us beat the algorithm. And if you're a real one who stuck around until the very end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Do not let them silence you. I'm Liam Prescott, and I'll see you in the next one.